Hi, my name is Claire and I'm from Simplistic Data. Welcome to the Basics of Data series, in which we look at all the different elements to do with data and all the different things to help your business grow and to upscale. If you would like to work with me directly, please drop us a line on our website, which is www.simplisticdata.co.uk. Let us know what you're working on and what your pain points are within your business, and we can have a look and see what efficiencies we can put in place to help you reach your business goals. So now that is out the way, let's crack on with the video. So today we are talking about change control. If your business is accredited with ISO 9001, you'll know that controlling the change within your business is paramount to the accreditation. You will also know that sometimes it can feel as though change control is putting barriers in the way to your business moving forward. So let's start with what the change control process is. It is, as the name suggests, a way to control the changes that may need to happen within your business. It allows you to consider everything to do with the change before you implement anything, so that you can see if it's worth pursuing, and if it is, it allows you to ensure that the change is implemented in the right way. Change control should be relatively simple in theory. For the process to be effective, you just need to know a few things and to ask a few questions. The first question is, why is this change required? Fully detail why the change is necessary. This is particularly useful if you need to build a business case for investment or for buy-in from other members of your teams. Sometimes you'll go through this part and realise that actually the change is not needed, and or it could be that the idea is not fit for purpose at this time, and so you can let it go. Document why you're not proceeding though, just in case you come back to it again later. It'll remind you of why the time wasn't right the last time. Identify what you are hoping to achieve with this change. Is the business going to save money? How can you demonstrate and measure the success of this? Is the business going to save time? How long does it take to complete the process now? And how long do you think it will take once the change is complete? Will there be a reduction in the opportunity for errors? What does that reduction look like? Will this change save headcount? And what does that look like? Then identify the risks and the opportunities. This is really important and should not be passed over at all. What are the risks if you implement this change? And what are the risks if you don't? So an example of this could be that there's a risk in making a change because you need to use a new technology. However, there could also be a risk that if you don't make that change now, the current technology that you use could become obsolete and will no longer perform or may no longer be supported, in which case that could be a bigger risk to the risk of implementing new technology. So both are very important to document. Then detail what opportunities may arise if you implement this change. A good example of this was when I carried out an implementation for a business that wanted to use Sage, and it started with them implementing Sage for their invoicing. So when we looked at the opportunities, we know that Sage has many different products, but they would be also useful to the company. So we documented that potentially from here, it opens the doors to further efficiencies, to utilise the other products from within the suite to bring the warehouse processes, for example, online using Sage's stock control app as well. This would link to the invoicing system, and it would save the company valuable time through the automation as the programs were inherently integrated. So this gave them another opportunity to look at the other processes that fed the warehouse processes to see if there was a product that could be used to make that more efficient, and so on. So although these things were not part of this particular change, we recognise that we were able to identify that there were further opportunities later on just by considering the opportunities that this one change could present. And when you're thinking about the risks, think about the actions that you can take to mitigate each risk. So you should also consider how likely it is for the risk to occur. And also, if it did occur, how big would the impact be? So those risks that have a high likelihood of happening and a high impact should be given the greatest focus, because, if that does happen, it could be quite catastrophic. If you can't mitigate those risks, it might not be the right time to carry out the change. But this is a decision that you have to come to try and make sure that you're doing things at the right time for the business. And all of these changes will help you to decide whether it is worth pursuing the change or to not bother. So the next step is to understand the inputs and the outputs. Again, this is really important. What needs to happen for this process to be triggered? What is the input? What needs to be produced by this process to enable the next process to be triggered? What should be the output? The best way to ascertain this is to ask the teams that run the processes that come beforehand and afterwards, so that they can be involved in it and understand where those points are. Don't just consider the change in isolation, and don't just consider the next process in line, but include the processes that come after that process. I remember being involved in a process change where a team wanted to remove a field from a form, so something really simple. They spoke to the next team in line in the processes, and they didn't know why it was there, so the decision was made to remove that field from the form. And it was only when the process had been implemented, so the change had already been implemented, that it came up that later on down the line there was another team who couldn't finish their process because this piece of information was missing. So although it didn't feed the next team in line, it fed someone a lot further down the line. So it's really important to understand where all the information goes that you're outputting. So whatever it is that you're outputting, where does it go? And does everybody that comes after your part of the process have everything that they need to be able to complete their part of the process to get this delivered to the customer in a timely fashion? Then you need to understand the skills and the tools that you have already. So that's within the business. So do you have the right tools within the business already to be able to do what you needed to do? Do you have individuals within your teams with the correct skill set to be able to implement this change? Or do you need outside help? What costs are there involved with buying in the new technology or in hiring an expert to come in and manage the change for you? Understand the training that may be required to make the change successful. With any change, there'll be an element of training, but it is good to understand what it is that will be required. So is it just a quick email to the staff involved to say X, Y, and Z have changed, so you just need to do this, this, and this? Or do you need to update some process documentations for ISO 9001? Does it require a full training course because it's so very different to what the staff are used to? Are training videos required? If so, who's going to record those and what needs to occur to make those happen? Then you need to create a team to make the change and manage the change. Utilize the wonderful staff that you have around you within your business to be champions of the change. Think about the skills required and the teams that will be involved with this process, and bring a representative from each so that they can look after their element in the process. And document the steps that you'll need to take to get to that end goal. Who needs to carry out each of the steps? When do the steps need to be completed by? What needs to happen first to enable those steps to happen? This is basically a project plan so that everyone can see where they are and what is expected of them. Then think about creating a rollback process. If something goes wrong with this new process, is there a way that you can revert to the old process or to a previous version of the process to enable the workflow to still continue and not bring the company to its knees? Understand the lessons learned. This is a big one. Whenever we undertake any project, there'll be things that we learn along the way. This could be how not to do something, for example. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, and documenting what you would have done differently, knowing what you know now, may save your bacon in future projects. If you've already implemented a lessons learned process, you can use them at the beginning of every project to remind yourself of what happened last time, so you don't you're not doomed to recreate the same mistake over and over again, and to help it flow more efficiently. I know that some of you will think that the process is overkill for small changes, but getting into the habit of thinking about changes in this particular way really does help you to consider all angles. And rather than going gung-ho only to find out it causes problems later, these could have been avoided if you'd taken the time up front to really consider everything and to think it through. I know it can also be frustrating to have to write down and document everything listed that we've talked about in this video, but if anything goes wrong, or if you decide to take advantage of one of the opportunities that came up, the things that you're collecting, the information that you're collecting and documenting, may really be invaluable to helping those projects and those processes to be more successful, or for you to unpick what it is that went wrong so that you can put it right. You don't have to implement this to the nth degree, especially if you're a small business, but it could really pay you dividends later on if you consider the different elements before you begin any change. Each business is different, and you need to find that sweet spot between collecting enough information and making it so that there's so much red tape that you have to fight through anything to get anything done. And that's not where we want to be. We want to be in that lovely place where we're collecting just enough information to make it nice and efficient for us to get to our end goals. And you have to remember, what works for one business might not work for another, and what works for one project might not work for another. So really sit and think about it and understand, especially when you do your risks and opportunities, this will help you to understand to what degree you need to work through your changes. And if you'd like some assistance in setting up a change control process for your business, get in touch with us. It's what we love to do, and we would love to help you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you all soon.